Marius Sierslin, co-founder and CEO at ShareGrid.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for having me. Today, I'm going to talk to you about building no-code tools alongside your engineering team. I know that could sometimes be a challenge, and at ShareGrid, I've done a few no-code tools, so I'd love to share some tips that I've picked up along the way. Now, there you go. So my name is Marius. I'm a co-founder, CEO, designer, marketer, and no-code developer. As you can see, I wear a lot of different hats. And the company that I co-founded is called ShareGrid. Basically, we help filmmakers and photographers rent out equipment to other local filmmakers and photographers. And we do it in a really safe and safe way. So, we're a small team, and that's one of the reasons that we wear so many different hats. We have about 19 people on the team and 5 different engineers. But what we all share in common is just a huge passion to build really great tools for our community. But along with that huge dream and all of the ideas that we all have, typically comes a huge Jira backlog. As many of you probably know, when you have a lot of ideas, you typically go to your engineering team and they say, great idea, make a ticket and we'll get to it, which is the right answer. However, it's not the most exciting answer. And about a year ago, I discovered this whole new world of no-code tools, and it really seemed kind of unreal. The ability to build anything we want, no code at all, and the ability to quickly iterate and make updates. And this kind of just blew us away. As a designer, I would love to make a pixel-perfect design and actually deliver a pixel-perfect design. So this kind of got us super excited. My co-founder and I are both designers, so we went to the development team and said, you know what, that backlog, we got it. Don't worry about it. Well, as you guys might guess, they had some questions and they were not as excited. Some of the questions that came up is like, who's gonna deal with all the bugs that are gonna come up? What happens when their website goes down? What happens when the no-code tools go out of business? What's gonna happen when it scales up to 100,000 people? Or security is a huge issue. Who's gonna have access to our data? And we took these questions very seriously and we thought about them. But it was definitely all the ideas we had and all of the things we wanted to build with the no code, kind of the list of ideas came down and it shrunk, but we didn't give up. 8 months later, we actually ended up building 3 different no-code tool apps, and all of them are still running to today. The first one we built was an internal customer relationship management tool for our customer service team. The second one we built was actually customer-facing. We built a bidding platform for renters that are looking to rent hundreds of items. Instead of searching for each item on our website, they could submit it as a project, and then people that owned all that equipment could submit bids on this list of equipment. And the third one, which we just launched recently, is a job opportunity feed, where we worked with job providers from across the industry, in the film and photography industry, and aggregated all of that data into a job feed. This is something we've always wanted to do, and with no-code tools, we were able to actually do it fairly quickly. So while building all of that over the last 8 months, I've learned a few things along the way on how to work with my existing engineering team, and I'd love to share some of those points now. So the first one being limit the scope. It's very important to limit the scope in the beginning. The second one is once you've built your apps, learn how to share the bugs. And the third one is if you want to continue to build no-code tools, you're gonna have to gain some trust within your organization. So let's dive right into limiting the scope. So when you're thinking about building no-code tools within your organization, you're gonna have ideas ranging anywhere from really safe ideas to complicated to some risky ideas. I would consider a safe idea being something like building something for internal tools. A complicated idea would be something along the lines of doing features for your main core app. And the third one, risky, I would consider blue sky ideas, potentially pivoting your company or going into a new service. Now, when you're kind of deciding which ones you should do, I would definitely encourage you to do internal tools. One of the main reasons is that they're prone for automation. What I mean by that is imagine your marketing team or your customer service team or your security team. They're probably doing a lot of manual work constantly, that there's a lot of room for just improvement and automation. And the nice thing about those teams is that they're going to be really friendly and they're going to give you a lot of feedback instead of like customers who, if they're paying for your service, they're going to expect the best product. So there's a lot of forgiveness and the failure is kind of okay at first. That's why I would definitely encourage you to do internal tools. Everyone's going to love being able to automate some of that work, some of the manual work. At ShareGrid, what we've done is we worked with our customer service team to build this internal CRM tool. Basically, our customer service team is in charge of verifying and vetting all of the users that come into our platform. 98% of the time, they get in through an automated system. But then there's that 2% who are labeled as high-risk potential renters that require references. So our customer service team used to have to manually email these people asking for references. Then we'd have to email the references, track all the emails that come back. What we've done is built a dashboard where our customer service team literally presses one button and everything after that is fairly automated. And we could track everything that's happening. This ended up saving hours of time for our customer service team and made the experience for the user much easier just because it was faster and more responsive. Now, the complicated part, building features within your core app, I would advise against. Mainly because in bigger organizations, at ShareGrid, we're a fairly flat structure. But I've worked for a bigger organization before, so I can imagine there's going to be a lot of red tape and a lot of bureaucracy if you're saying, hey, I'm going to start committing features to our core app using no-code tools. You're probably going to step on some toes, so I would advise not to do that. There's also a very low margin for error, because if you mess something up and that core product is generating the majority of your revenue, that's not going to go well with most people in your company. So, down the line, maybe you could start building no-code tools for your main core app, but in the beginning, I would advise against it. For us, when we started using no-code tools, I actually went after this section first. I was so excited, I wanted to build features inside our core app. And what happened was I was trying to use a tool called Mason, which promised that as a designer, I could replace all of our front-end engineering and basically build everything using no-code tools, all of our front-end, and only rely on our engineering team for the back-end. Of course, our engineering team was very hesitant about this idea and advised strongly against it, simply for the fact that if they went out of business, our front-end would go out of business too, and we'd have no front-end. And thankfully, we didn't move forward because a few months later, the company did go out of business, even though they did have millions of dollars in investment. So again, this is a fairly riskier situation, and I would not probably advise to jump into the core app right away. Now, with blue sky ideas, I think this is a great opportunity. And what I mean when I'm saying blue sky ideas, I mean, a lot of companies typically have aspirations to get into new services or new markets or test out new ideas. And this typically requires a lot of engineering help, a lot of designer help, a lot of researcher help. And a lot of companies never take the plunge to try out new ideas because they know that it would take away from the development of their core app. But with no-code tools, it's actually very easy to build a prototype, test it with users, get initial feedback, and then double down on that potential product if it works out. And that's exactly what we did at ShareGrid, where we always wanted to get into jobs because a lot of our users were saying, hey, instead of renting out my equipment, can I rent out myself? And that's when we decided, hey, let's try out this job idea, but we didn't want to take away a lot of our developers from the core app. So we started building this job feed where we aggregate jobs, and now if that goes well, we'll double down on the idea and continue to build on it. So it's a blue sky ideas is definitely an area I would encourage a lot of people to try out. Now, that's how you should get started, in my opinion. Now, once you've built a no-code tool, you should definitely maintain it and be careful with the bugs. I'm a fairly optimistic person, so when I first built our no-code tools inside ShareGrid, I was telling everybody about how great they were and how they're never going to break and nothing bad's ever going to happen. And within the first week, I started to get a bunch of complaints about how everything is not okay and everything is breaking. Anywhere from the bidding site is showing duplicate bids, to email stopped going out, to customer information is not displaying any longer. Everything is loading really slow, can you fix it? And our developers were not, again, super excited to fix it because they were not the ones to build it, and I never really involved them in actually building it. So a lot of that was coming towards me. But I quickly realized that no-code bugs actually require no-code solutions. So instead of me fixing the bugs, what I did is I sat down with my customer service team and I sat down with my engineering team and I walked them through the process that I took to build these tools. And by walking them through the process, anytime there was a bug, first off, they were incentivized that they should fix it themselves so they could get it done faster. But because they didn't have a steep learning curve to learn how to code, they could actually fix most of those bugs by themselves because they would just reverse engineer how the flow of information went through the product and be able to see what's happening or why stuff is not working. One of the things that we came across was a slow dashboard in one of the spreadsheet apps we were using. It had a lot of data in it for months and months and accumulated so much that the spreadsheet was like coming to a crawl and it was not usable any longer. So what I did, I sat down with my customer service team and I taught them how to actually build in filters and how to build different views of that information. Once they built filters, everything started running really smoothly again. And a couple weeks later, I found out they actually started building more filters on top of the filters I was teaching them how to build. So everyone could crush bugs when you're building no-code tools, as long as you take a little bit of upfront time to teach everybody how to do it. Now, once you've built your app, the bugs are gone, you're going to want to continue to build more no-code tools. And to do that, you're going to have to basically turn the non-believers into believers. And some of the tips I have for you are, one, make penicillin, not vitamins. And what I mean by this is try to focus on the most important problems. If you were to build a directory for your company, that's great. It's a nice to have. But unless you're Amazon with 20,000 employees, it's probably not going to be like the killer app that's going to save people a lot of time. So I would focus on building tools that are really helpful to your team or to the users that you're building for. And one way to actually test if your app is really valuable is to actually just shut it off one day and see if anybody notices. I didn't do this on purpose. The bugs did it for me, but I had a lot of complaints, and that's when I knew I built something of value. And I continued to maintain it and just iterate on it. And that's actually my next point, is that once you build an app, in order to create trust and value, you have to maintain it. One of the misconceptions of no-code is that no-code is not reliable. And we don't want to continue that misconception. You want to stay on top of your apps. You want to ensure they're continuously working so you could gain that trust over time. But also try to involve people in your organization and teach them how to use these apps, because the more people you involve, the more trust you'll garner throughout your organization. And the last point is showcase and evangelize. And what I mean by this is I don't mean just show off the end product, because we're all used to seeing the end product. I want you guys to start showing off how you built the product. And the reason this is important is that in a lot of organizations, marketing and salespeople, they typically have a lot of great ideas because they're out there talking to users. But most of them don't have the courage to speak up their ideas, to tell their ideas, because they know how difficult and how long it takes to actually build these features, so they just rather not speak up at all. But the moment you start showing people that what's possible with no-code tools, their eyes light up, and now you've just unlocked the creativity of your entire organization. And it's not just a small fraction of your team that's building all these tools and coming up with ideas. You're empowering everybody in your company to come up with ideas. And I think that's incredibly powerful. Now, this is kind of this is all I have. Limit the scope when you're first starting. It's really important to, you're not going to be able to gain trust right away. You want to start off easy. And then once you've built a few apps, make sure you maintain it. You teach everybody how to take care of the bugs. And then earn trust by showcasing some of your development. And hopefully you'll be able to build a lot more. Now, if you have any questions for me, my name is Marius. You can email me at marius@sharegrid.com or follow me on Twitter at MadeByMarius. Thank you so much.
Please welcome